Okay, hello everyone, and welcome to our podcast series. So, for years, networking sat in the background of the technology conversations. It was essential, but rarely the headline. And now AI happened. And today, conversations have started to shift and from traditional networking to AI driven and open networking. So, what does it really take to build AI factories, AI fabrics that really accommodate that AI data, and how leaders should think about it? And to help us unpack that story, I am joined today by Vishal Shukla, who is the author of the book Deciding the Future, Building New Networks for the AI Era, and Alan Weckel, who is the co-founder and analyst at 650 Group and who brings the market perspective and how the industry is thinking about AI networking and where buyers are placing bets and what trends are shaping the next phase. So, Vishal and Ellen, welcome to the show and very happy to see you here today. So,
Thank you, Ilona.
to begin with, Ellen, I would like to ask you, what do you see happening in the market from your perspective? You are doing a lot of research and a lot of publications. So, what is really happening, and what is changing, and what makes the new market in this AI era? What defines that market?
Yeah, we're in an incredible time with AI, both from what's occurring, we're say, when we use AI, but also the infrastructure behind the scenes that's connecting those GPUs and XPUs together. And really what's happening is we're moving from one network to multiple networks to support those AI factories. Some people call that scale up and scale out. You've got scale across. The kind of key is we're getting more than one network in the connectivity piece. And that's unlocking a huge TAM, right? Ultimately, data center networking is going to be about a $200 billion TAM by the end of the decade. So huge, huge opportunity. But in that opportunity, there's obviously more complexity, right? Going from one to multiple networks is complex. And then also, as we kind of think about it, whether you're an enterprise or the largest hyperscaler, the number of GPUs and XPUs that you're going to be using is increasing. And so there needs to be a way to kind of compress that down into something that's more usable and more scalable. And that's really where the network shines, right? The network is not only the glue that connects that together in order to generate models or do inference, but it also becomes that kind of unifying block that allows you to scale to the next GPU and the next XPU in your connectivity.
Yeah, thank you very much, Ellen, for that perspective. And Vishal, you're really covering these aspects of the book and how leaders should really think about this scale up and scale down. Scale up and scale out, and what's really important, and why. What triggered you to write the book in the first place?
Yes, so I mean, if you look at Aviz, the work which we are doing, so as an individual, the networking person, I've been always in my life. I actually look at these changes which are happening, in the industry. There was a time when software-defined network happened. Then there was a time when disaggregation happened. But this one is a totally different time because this is fundamentally changing. Uh, the way networks are built. Now we have, three or four different kind of design coexisting in a single fabric, right? And this kind of a complexity has never happened in the past. You have different kind of compute. One is for training, one is for inferencing, and then you have normal computes which are happening, the normal applications, right? So while this is unlocking, a pretty good opportunity for end consumers, for the vendors, and everyone, the complexity is increasing, right? And that's where I wanted to have a first level of readout for the executives that what this is about, and go a little bit deep into this, not on the technology side, but on the understanding side that what all it is made up of, and then peel the onion of this complexity, how to solve this complexity. And I'm a big believer in the pattern repeats, so history repeats, right? So I start with essentially how how these kind of waves have panned out in the history, right? And for this particular way, I mean, we basically look at how hyperscalers have done it and how the enterprises can replicate to manage those level of complex networks, and not as a flip of a button. No, how pragmatically, while you basically start today with getting the maximum return, but build a thing for future, wherein it's consistently keep on giving you returns, and essentially you don't have to boil the ocean, because not everyone is managing million device, million switch network. But then if you are even at 10,000 or 5,000 or even 100, you should get the benefit on how it is done, right? And whatever we do is future proof. So essentially, what is the technology, how the history behaved, the pattern behaves in the past, how can you replicate it in a very pragmatic way, and how can you look for future proof, consistent ROI? These are the questions which we get from executives all the time. So I've tried to cover those questions based on what we have seen in history, based on what we have seen at hyperscalers, and based on what is the use cases, what these executives are asking about. So this is what it is about in the networks for AI section on the book.
This is great. Alan, do you see this happening as well in the market, that a lot of these infrastructure conversations eventually come down to how it improves ROI? Does it sound strategically attractive? Can you comment on that as well?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think the answer is yes, right? As these networks become more complex, and I'd say more importantly, the application landscape, right? When we start introducing agents, that's even more applications in the data center. The only way that the human can scale is with the network, right? And some of that will be automation, some of that will be an ROI. And so I think the pragmatic way for enterprises and cloud providers to look at this is that the journey is changing. And in the past, we could call that the virtualization or data center consolidation journey. And now it's about the AI journey. And so from step one, kind of pre-planning all the way through implementation, it's not only about ROI, it's about changing that conversation. So that you are future proofing or your network intersects where the technology will be in a couple years. Otherwise, you'll be left behind. And I think that's the scary part if you're an enterprise, right? There's a chance in this wave that you get left behind.
Right. And are there any, what would you say, one or two things that really important for the leaders to do today so they're not left behind tomorrow in this new AI era, from your perspective?
Yeah, so the first one is engage, right? Ultimately, things are changing and you might not have that expertise in-house. So whether that's engaging with vendors or your peers in the industry, right? Kind of engage. And then the second one would be have that eye on the target in the future, right? We know in the future, whether you're not deploying a GPU this year or next year, that accelerated compute is going to become the majority of your workloads in the future. So with that kind of vector in mind, focus on that and kind of guide your network decisions to that new architecture. Similar as Vishal mentioned, right? Things tend to repeat, similar to the cloud journey, right? If you were kind of monolithic in nature, in general, not only was your infrastructure left behind, but the business was left behind. So kind of take those learnings, apply it to AI, so that you're on the cutting edge, even if, again, you're not going to have a bunch of GPUs in the next year or two. You want to get to that type of architecture.
So, Vishal, in your book, you argue that standardization is not just engineering preference, right? It's an ROI engine. And you can connect it with skills reuse, lower MTTR, more negotiating power, and less lock-in. So, how should executives think about that? And what can you comment about ROI? How can networks for AI really improve ROI? Or is it strategically attractive for the leaders?
So look, I mean, I'll just go to most of the point Alan has spoken here kind of makes sense, already covered. But then, Alan also talked about the cloud journey. You see, I mean, there is one part of it starting on the cloud journey, but what happened towards the peak of it and moving towards, towards the, when all the workload got migrated, is the things it started to talk about optimization and how much it cost for the data and how much it cost for the network. Essentially, the cost of goods sold, COGS concept start to come in, right? Which means that yeah, you can run the VM, but where do you run that VM? You run it in AWS or GCP or Azure, or does it make sense to have your own data center because now COGS are catching up. So in AI world, this is essentially, some people call it token served, and Alan talked about applications. Of course, when the application will start to come in, uh, there will be a discussion of how much it costs to basically run those applications, right? And at that point of time, the decisions which you are making today will essentially impact those costs later. So basically, if you are standardizing on software, what it means is that you have the ability to absorb the latest and greatest hardware innovation at a faster pace. What it helps you with is essentially price to performance ratios will keep on improving. So of course you will be able to absorb that better ratios, and which means that you can actually have your cost of AI served flat, or go marginally increase as the inflation increase and everything. But if you design it in a way that it is dependent on just one vertical logged in system, then it will not turn out like this. And if you look at history, if you are dependent on something, typically your cost start to increase, and then it becomes a big technical debt that you cannot come out of it. So architecting it right is very important, and that's where the ROI lies. And by the way, in the book I have discussed about that, what you can start right now with a closed system, and how to basically pragmatically build it in an open system, because you want to make sure that your cost of token served is future proof. It goes with the industry standard, not with basically your infrastructure, right? So this is how it is important, and the executive should think about that everything which gets sold today as a a great technology start to get the competition start to come in and start to get the modules start to get commoditized, the prices start to get low and low, all that thing happens, right? So design it in a way that you can actually take advantage of all those things which happens with any new technology, because your competitors they will definitely do that. So that's how you have to look for it.
So, Vishal, you mentioned these open systems are important. Can you comment a little bit more on that? What does it really mean, and why is it important?
Well, so I'll say this, right? The AI factories and AI fabrics, they are more like a ecosystem play, anyways, right? I mean, there is no one vendor in the world who is making everything, and this is essentially partnership is a way to go, because different companies are good in different technologies they make, uh, and this is the openness what I'm talking about, right? So basically, and what connects it everything is networks, right? And so you have to make sure that your networks is designed in a way that it is open to connect with all different options, be it GPU, be it storage, be it the software layer around it, open to basically integrate all those things. And essentially there are ways to do that, and this is what has been written in the book. As Alan mentioned, right? It's a $200 billion dollar market by end of this decade, right? So this will get to you, every single customer out there in one way or the other, because this is such a massive wave. So designing it right is important.
Alan, is a question for you, a follow-up question. So, this openness, why do you think that is especially important from your perspective in the AI era? And if it is?
Yeah, no, it's definitely important. And I think it's just the variability, right? As Vishal mentioned, this is about creating token factories. And openness is the difference between losing money and making money on those tokens, right? At the core, that's kind of the problem. But secondarily, right, you're bringing on new applications that we don't know. Look at kind of the headlines today versus a year versus 2 years ago on just how quickly AI has evolved, right? 2 years ago, it was all about training and these large language models. Now we're talking about implementing it. So the type of workload is changing and the future is uncertain. And so openness allows you to kind of absorb those permutations, the known, which is, hey, we need to generate tokens in a profitable way, and the unknown, like what applications will change and when. And so that openness is kind of the only way that we can ensure that in the future we have the right network for the right infrastructure and for the right applications.
Right. And Vishal, you also touched on that future-proofness. Can you please comment on that as well? Why openness and standardization is important to make networks future-proof from your point of view? And I think you mentioned that in the book as well.
Yeah, first of all, let's say why future is important. The compute is changing at exponential speed, so you need to design something which is essentially designed to embrace and absorb those technologies, right? I mean, NVIDIA has given a roadmap till 2028. The reason they have opened up their roadmap so that the ecosystem around it can develop. As I said, it's an ecosystem play, right? Just having a GPU will not serve you the AI, right? So applications has to evolve, storage has to evolve, network has to evolve, and cooling system, data center, everything has to evolve, right? So it's essentially a future thing. Now, the most important thing there, what sits in the core is network, right? There's a famous saying, the most important things are more often invisible, and that's what network is, right? So basically, future proofing of that networks while you are juggling with energy and GPUs and supply chain and data centers and everything is very important because if that is not done right, the how would you integrate everything together, right? And that would will become a problem, and that's what this book is about. And I have argued multiple different angles on how to start, where to start, pragmatic, because not everyone is in a situation right now that they can flip the switch and they become open overnight, right?
Mm,
That's not how it works. So so pragmatically how to do that is the recipe written in the book.
okay. I'm sure people are interested how can they start from pragmatically and what would be that first step? They can uh, read about it in the book and you can mention. But just I have a follow-up question since Alan and you, Vishal, mentioned that about the future and what needs to be done to be successful in the future. And of course, we all understand that, especially with NVIDIA coming up next week, that the people are buying GPUs and the future. What about people who are not buying the GPUs at this moment? Most likely, everybody will be buying GPUs in 3, 4 years. But what about now? How does it relate to them?
Yeah. I think, Alan, you want to take that question?
Yeah, well, it relates to them today because you might not have a GPU in your infrastructure in 2 or 3 years, but your applications are changing in real time, right? Whether that's more mundane things like email or databases, but structurally, every part of your business process is going to be enhanced with AI. Or accelerated compute if you want to take a more mundane approach to it. And
Mm,
so you need to start having those conversations today. Otherwise, you are kind of left behind. And I think that's kind of the key to openness here, right? If we are an IT administrator today, or a server or network team, you need to kind of have that future lens in place because your traditional networks, as they're built today, can't absorb AI, right? We're talking magnitudes higher in bandwidth, magnitudes higher in complexity, and they're just different applications. So if you're not engaging today and doing, say, some small efforts or deployments in order to get to that openness, then when it does hit you, right, you are left behind.
And what is this biggest bottleneck uh, you think is happening today if people are not engaging? Why they're not engaging?
I think it's the kind of you're stuck in your day job, and your day job has a lot of like the older stuff to it, like what was my security threat or why did I get this dashboard message, right? And so you're kind of stuck a little bit in the old, but also it's a little bit of the fear of the unknown, right? Legitimately, we don't know what the killer application is going to exactly look like in 2 or 3 years. It's there and it's coming, but you don't know if it's going to be agents or each business process, etc. And so if you don't have an ability to kind of quantify that, you tend to push to the right or push out. But in reality, right, you need to get future proof and get your network and your applications up and ready to go for when that occurs. And that's a lot of I want to say daily work, but right, you can do a lot of groundwork today so that when that occurs, right, it's not as scary or as daunting a task. Otherwise, again, you'll be stuck just operating.
And I agree with that 100%, Alan. I actually drew a picture of duck, which basically over the water looks, perfectly fine, doing the day job. But actually, the paddling legs are essentially doing the work, which is basically getting ready for the next body of water where the duck is headed anyways with the flow. Right. So that's what my analogy to say that, look, I mean, the successful organizations, they look very calm from outside. The work is getting done, the firefighting is getting done, but then there is a lot of things which leaders do under the hood as a small project or as incubation or something that they are getting ready for the next thing which is coming, and that's what I have seen successful leaders doing. Carving out uh, something that we can start for the next phase, right? While doing the day job, and so not getting stuck in the status quo of operations is essentially is a key here, is what it is.
Okay,
Yeah.
Vishal, Ellen, thank you very much for such an interesting conversation. This really concludes our podcast. Thank you for joining in, and thank you for listeners for tuning in. There will be more episodes coming in on the book. Please stay tuned, and we will be in touch. Thank you again for joining.